Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
We are back with our professional of the year, and of course, Jim Ramsey, that is. Aletheia Marriage Counseling is the name of his company. He's here helping, especially serving Montana since 1979, but he is helping those abroad here with the Zoom. And, are you afraid you will never grow old together? Losing your close love feelings? Contact him today because that is his specialty. And again, he is a research-based marriage counseling in Montana, and he really has a research-based approach. So we're excited that he's here joining us once again live on the show. Don't forget his YouTube channel and his website, Aletheia, spelled Aletheia, marriagecounseling.com. Also does Christian counseling, let alone the counseling services for women, men, couples, premarital, divorce. You name it, he does it. And that was a long introduction. Jim, always a pleasure.
Well, it's good to be here.
Same here. Pleasure to have you back. So tell us a little bit about yourself and company, what you do, and then we'll get into today's topics. And of course, I know we have some great questions lined up that I think will be beneficial to our listeners.
Well, my main calling really is just to help couples save their marriages. And I think that I can't think of anything I'd rather do. I can't think of anything more important, especially in our culture where so many people are struggling, to be able to find that safe place together and feel secure and know that you're loved and be able to be happy the rest of your life together.
Oh, it's a beautiful thing that you do. And we've had some great conversations over the past few months about this. And you're really helping enlightening, couples. They're each, unique perspective, male, female, and what that's like. Even today, I know we're going to start off by talking a little bit about finances, right? So that's could be, a very difficult conversation for some. So let's start with, how about the basic question of what do you think are the best ways for couples to discuss finances?
Well, I think the very most important thing looking at this subject is that people have different backgrounds and people have different skills and different abilities and different ways of looking at things. And I would say finances and child rearing are the two things that people have the most conflict about. So the first thing I'd say is work on your mindset. Think of yourself as partners in a business. The moonlight business is your family, And I think it's a good idea to have a weekly meeting where you sit down for at least an hour when you're not overly tired and you're not in a situation where you're going to be interrupted all the time and talk about your life. And that includes your finances. And talk about your children, each one. What child's having problems this week? Why are they having problems? Basically really get on top of things. But in the area of finances, it's really important to realize that we're running a company here, partners. And we need to talk really in a very business-like way. We're not going to be taking shots at each other. We're not going to be insulting. We're not going to be trying to control. We're going to sit here and talk about our life and our money and try to make decisions together and stay calm and say, this is how I see it. Talk about your perspective, and they talk about their perspective and how you what you need and how you feel. They talk about that as well. You respect each other. Now, if you get to some kind of an impasse, agree together who's going to be your financial expert that you'll go to for input when you're stuck. But don't get into vicious circles where you start feeling insulted and you're demeaned and that sort of thing. Emotions are the main thing that cause problems with being rational. You can't think straight when you're emotional. So you need to figure out a way to be calm. That was a long answer, but
no, that's okay. You gotta stick and stay with being calm. That could be something difficult, but breathe, think before you speak, right? Any other advice?
well, really respect each other. You're going to have some differences. One of you is probably going to be a spender, and the other one's probably going to be a saver. And so don't try to convert them to be like you. Realize that we need both sides. We are complementary. There are times when we need to be willing to take risk and spend. There are other times when we need to be cautious and save. And the more you realize that we are a team, and it's not a matter of who's right and who's wrong, it's how can we use both of our experience and both of our intelligence.
Well, let's also move down our list. And for today, listen up. We're talking more about finances and how can you really work together as a couple to achieve your financial goals, especially like you said, if one is the spender, one is the saver.
Well, I think the thing is to have goals. A lot of couples just kind of fly by the seat of their pants, Uh, Set goals. What do we want to buy in what time period? And what do we want to accomplish within a year financially? What do we want to accomplish in 5 years? Um, Begin to talk about your future and begin to set achievable goals and celebrate when you get one of them accomplished, and then make other goals and do this together. Otherwise, you're just kind of flying by the seat of your pants, and you're not going to get very far that way. You need wings, you know.
Mhm. Well, also with couples, and can you help avoid financial conflicts? What are some of the things you should do? And by the way, just another question offhand. I've never been married, but I hear, a lot of, couples put their money together. Is that still the case, or are people keeping their money apart? And why? What should we be doing?
Well, I think an ideal is, again, think of yourself as a little business, and we have our finances that we're allocating and spending together. But there are extenuating circumstances. For example, let's assume for a moment that both people have lost their spouses in their midlife and they already are financially secure. And there's certain things that are involved with their adult kids, and there are various kinds of complications that mean it's best to keep their money separate. There are things that can allow for the need for this is what I have and this is what I have and this is what we pool together for our expenses here. So I don't think it's a hard, fast rule, but the thing is, you want to honor each other and you want to trust
Hmm.
each other and you want to think of it in terms of us and ours as opposed to mine and yours.
Perfect. Well, let's also then bring up for those couples that may have different spending habits, how do you manage that? Because, yeah, most of the time, I mean, I'm hoping there are some two savers out there or two spenders together, but I've heard of most stories how it's usually one or the other.
Yeah,
Opposites attract, they say, right?
yeah, it's pretty typical to have that difference. And it could be a balancing thing. Like I say, think of it as we're basically fitting together, you know, we're complementing each other rather than competing with each other. But coming back to your question, um, I think you want to just try to have a happy medium. Also allow for individual freedom. Maybe each of you carry around $100 a month or something that you can spend any way you want. Or
Mm-hmm.
you can also have a situation like I can make a unilateral decision up to $500 or up to 100 or something of that nature. Have your policies. And again, if you start reaching an impasse, have some expert that you both agree on that you consult and you agree that will go along with their input. In other words, you don't want to have one of you being the superior one. We're both doing the best we can, but if we don't know quite what we need to do or we can't reach an agreement,
Yeah.
let's have somebody that we can turn to and even, pay them something once in a while if we need to have input on what to do, rather than get into a spiraling vicious circle of conflict.
Got it. Well, also let's point out that couples sometimes handle stress of finances differently too. I mean, just to bring up this case on Long Island, where I'm from, some I don't even know their names, but there was some rich millionaire out in the Hamptons who was married, had the kids, beautiful. Everyone thought beautiful life, right? Next thing you know, he committed suicide, and only to find out that he had $8,000 left in his bank account, and he was like 30 something million in debt. Left his family, just like, wow, right? I mean, wow, to handle that. I mean, that's how he handled it, unfortunately, but that's the extreme. But those things do happen tragically, right? If you're scared to tell your spouse that you're in debt.
Mhm. Well, it's very important that you face reality together. We're in this together. You might be embarrassed terribly because you made a bad investment, or even worse yet, made an investment without even discussing it with your spouse. And
Mm-hmm.
it was bad. You got to face the music, you know. As an adult, it's really important that you are willing to be humble and say, I blew it. I made a mistake and I'm really sorry and whatever. But there are horrible things that can happen financially, as you just indicated.
Yeah.
And the thing is, you want to catch it before it gets that bad. You want to talk about things on an ongoing basis rather than let it build up to some big secret that ruins everything, you know.
Yeah. Well, any other advice that you want to give to us here financially for couples that are dealing with financial struggles and clearly, differences in how they handle money, that stress factor? What do you recommend?
Well, I think that there's a guy named Ramsey that has a lot to say on the subject. Dave Ramsey. Dave Ramsey.
I was like, yeah, you do, Jim. I'm like, oh, okay.
And
That's right. I know of
he's not a
him.
relative, but he certainly knows what he's doing. I think the key here is to, try to have a savings, try to budget your money. A budget's very important. There's all kinds of books. Dave Ramsey stuff is wonderful. There are others. But go to some kind of an expert and get some kind of a system that you can both agree on and work on. That way, you're going to get ahead. You're going to start making money that you can save and be able to retire. But a lot of people just kind of blow it. And then before they know it, they're 50. And they say, well, I guess we're going to be kind of short on money. You got to think about it.
Yeah, very important. I'm assuming to, as a couple, definitely you have to talk about finances. Some people don't, and that could lead down some horrible paths, which I'm sure you can attest to, as well. I've had family, friends who aren't open about things, realizing there was more debt than thought, and that causes a lot of headache and cause divorce. I mean,
Hmm.
a lot of conflict.
Hmm. That's right. So it's a very important area, and a fair number of people end up getting divorced. They would say because of their conflict about money. They get divorced about conflict about children. People get divorced about conflict. So one of the things is to respect each other and avoid being irrational and emotional and mean-spirited.
Mm-hmm.
Calm yourself down, set a time to talk. That's why the meeting is a good idea. We have a
Yeah.
meeting, we meet and we're going to talk as partners and we're going to make decisions together. And you're both in a mood for it. You both are planning for it. You know what you're going to do. You don't just try to do it in the middle of the night when you're both tired. You don't have somebody come in and pop something on you. You get organized a little bit.
Yeah. Now, what about, with couples, one may be the bigger earner than the other? I'm sure you've dealt with that, and there's some disparity with that. And that could be intimidating to one, upsetting to the other, or, that playing field of one makes more than the other. How does that affect the psyche of a couple?
Well, if you look at it from the standpoint, I'm somehow better than you, or I'm richer than you, or I'm more talented than you, that you're on the wrong track. I mean, the way you want to look at it is I work one job that pays this much, and you work another job
Mm-hmm.
that pays that much, and it just happens that I get more than you do. Doesn't mean I'm better than you or smarter than you. It just means we have two trails of income coming into our home, and we manage it together. But I think any couple that gets into a thing where the guy that makes more money is more important or more powerful or has more influence in the couple relationship is a big mistake. It makes resentment, and resentment causes problems in your connection. You want to feel connected as two people that really love each other and respect each other. You don't want to feel like I don't even have a title to the house or I don't have any claim to the savings account. I've seen things like this.
I've heard
Well,
it recently, yeah, with a guy that I'm dating. He mentioned, he was talking about one of his employees, and she's a lesbian, and her wife's at home. She is like an aide in a school, so she makes less money than what she does because she's managing a big office. But he actually said to me, he's like, well, you know, she's always calling out sick, and I'm getting sick of this. Her wife has the lesser job. She should be the one with the kids. And I was like, excuse me? Well, and I'm like, what do you mean lesser job? Well, this person makes more money than her wife, so she should be, the one to go to work and not call out. And I'm like, I don't like that. I don't like that tone of, well, her job is more important in a sense.
yeah, yeah.
I'm like, ooh.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. I think really, if you're going to have a good marriage, you have to really honor and respect each other for who you are, not what the paycheck is. Some jobs that are even harder to work, a lot harder to work, don't pay as well as ones that are easier. You can sit at a desk and not stretch your muscles or pain, have bruises or pain at all, and make more money than the guy that's out doing horrible hard work. So we just need to respect each other, love each other, support each other, and enjoy each other, and get off of these kinds of things that are all centered around me. Selfishness is a great enemy to marriage.
Beautifully said.
Self-centeredness
Yeah.
is a great enemy.
And any advice for couples to handle financial expectations during the holidays and birthday?
Well, we all have different family backgrounds. And it's amazing what some families spend for Christmas. I mean, amazing. They'll shell out big money for everybody, all the cousins and all kinds of stuff. And you might have come from a family where your family members didn't give gifts to each other, you know. And so I think it's going to be important that you kind of get a drift about this while you're dating until you get a little idea what's going on. But you got to talk about it. You really have to talk about it. Can we reach a compromise? Maybe we're not going to spend as much, we're not going to spend as little, but let's agree what we are going to do.
And
And
what
if it comes down to it, I think it's better to go on the generous side than be the Scrooge at Christmas, But there are big differences.
Yeah. Oh, well, I love that. What about saving like buckets? They have like bank accounts now have those saving buckets. You should put some money away during the year so it doesn't come as a hard hit.
I think that's a wise idea. Sure. Yeah. And I think, for example, when you have a budget, you need to be budgeting for Christmas and birthdays too. That's part of the budget. That way it's there.
Well,
So
well, what about couples that do make financial mistakes? We kind of addressed this before, but we have to learn to forgive, right? Even if it's something tragic and tragically big. Like, what would you say to someone who kind of is lying about their finances behind the other one's back, I would say, and or holding stuff back, or maybe not saying so they don't consider it lying because they never told them. Withholding information, maybe we could say, Jim.
yeah. Well, all that, of course, is wrong. It's bad news. You don't do that kind of stuff, but people do. And I think again, we want to try to be as loving and forgiving as possible. But it's important that we really honor each other by being truthful and honest and inclusive and not make big decisions by ourselves and take risks that the other person doesn't even know about. But people get into all kinds of trouble because of money, including health issues, depression and anxiety and all kinds of things. They're taking medication and seeing the doctors about it and can't sleep at night. And all these things are difficult. And it's difficult to even try to help your spouse that's having the problems because you don't want to have them think of you're trying to be a health expert. Everybody wants to be the expert on food or child rearing or money or health. And in the Gottman research, they found of the four horsemen, that is the major conflict people have, the one that is the most damaging is the one we call contempt.
Oh,
If you feel like your partner is showing you contempt, like I'm
yeah.
superior, I'm wiser,
That could be a
ooh, that
big issue.
really, really is hard,
Gets under my skin.
hard.
Uh,
It's bad news,
yeah.
And so you just really want to be careful not to try to come across as I'm the expert on childcare, I'm the expert on health, I'm the expert on medicine, I'm the expert on money.
Mm,
It doesn't feel good, and it causes conflict.
I've had an attorney ex-boyfriend who was like that. Yeah, interesting. The know-it-all in the relationship. You have to have room for both.
Mhm.
Oh my goodness. Well, let's talk more about finances in general, right? They say for better or for worse. What if things really go worse? Have you dealt with couples who are really facing, poverty or not able to pay their bills and how that's affecting them? And some want to separate, maybe divorce because of it.
That's right. That happens. That's why I think the Judeo-Christian ethics that we've had as a country down through the years that are now being challenged by all sorts of me-centered philosophies really are necessary sometimes when you get in these hard times. What happens if you're married and your wife gets paralyzed from the neck down
Sick.
when she's 23? You're going to divorce
Hmm.
her? What are you going to do? What happens if you go bankrupt? We're going to say, I'm out of here. Or we're going to work together to somehow start again. Um, so I think being other-centered, being loving, being kind, being forgiving, being patient are really important. And our culture gets so involved in just doing and having, and we're not as relational as we used to be. We're not as caring as we used to be. We're
Hmm.
not as kind as we used to be. And we're reaping we're reaping the whirlwind as a
Yeah.
result of that. And we need to get back to our core values, get back to the way we're supposed to be acting.
Ah. Well, we still have another 10 minutes left in the show, and I didn't know if you want to continue discussing finances with couples or maybe some other common things that you're finding with your couples, and especially around this time of year. I would think finances would come into play. You're right, end of the year coming up, the holidays. What else did you want to elaborate on?
Well, I think one of the things that I think is a good idea, and I've done it myself, I think you as a couple need to take a week once a year just to go somewhere by yourself and you get babysitters line it all up, but you're gone for a week. And I don't care if you're in the woods somewhere in a tent, or if you're on a cruise ship or you're at a resort, wherever you are, you're alone and you go. Now, during that time, you need to look at the next coming year. What are we going to do next year? What are we going to do financially? What are our goals? And then start talking again about 5-year goals and that sort of thing. I think once a season, you need to get away for a weekend, 3 days, you're gone by yourself, beginning of spring, beginning of summer, beginning of fall, and you're planning the things that we're going to do during that 3 months. What are we going to do with the family? What kind of activities? What kind of financial things are we trying to accomplish? The more you continue to be the core of your family, and you're planning and you're dreaming and you're enjoying and you're not just flying by the seat of your pants. You're making plans, not just financial plans, but activity plans, family plans, whatever. But you need to do that. And that doesn't mean you don't go for a vacation with your kids, but that means you do something, the two of you, for sure. And then you also do things with your kids.
Yeah. And we talked about that, though. Kids do change a lot. What is it, the 7-year rule? What is it? If your marriage survives to 7 years, we talked about this before.
Yeah. We know from research that half of all divorces happen the first 7 years. I was just talking with a couple yesterday, a situation, they're in the middle of the 6th year, and she's a doctor and he's a talented guy, but he's making less money than she is, so he's the Mr. Mom for a while here.
Mm-hmm.
And the baby is 1 year old and colicky, doesn't sleep more than 3 hours any night. And they're just going through horrible troubles trying to survive. But the vicious circles get going. Your expectations aren't met. It's going to be wonderful. We have this precious little child. It's going to be wonderful. But it's tough. The Gottman research to come up with a program, they have a book out, Bringing Baby Home, that prepares couples before they have kids to know that this is going to be a stressful situation. And you've got to go in shoulder to shoulder. And you got to know that this is going to be a bonding experience. It's not going to be easy. It's going to be tough, but we're going to do it and we're going to come out the other end. And when you do that, your love is deepened and you become more mature. And you're not just footloose and fancy free like you are without children or without marriage. And so there's things like that that really make a difference that people need to know about. It is tough to go through the first 7 years. A lot of vicious circles start during the 7 years.
Got it. Yeah. And secrets to success. Do you have any secrets that are successful to make a relationship work?
Well, I think you need to be very deliberate about getting married. You're making a choice for a lifelong partner, the lifelong partner. And so you want to know that you are absolutely sure that you want to be married. It's not kind of a flam deal. It's a really thought through. You met with the family, you know all about everything. You really feel confident that I can spend my life with this person. That's step one. Then step two, you need to focus on that relationship. There shouldn't be any person, thing, or activity more important to you than they are. And they need to be able to see that by your behavior. You're invested in each other. You're caring for each other. You're loving each other. You're helping each other. It is a one flesh relationship. Two people are becoming one entity, a couple, you know. And I think our culture right now is so disassociated. We're on the screen all the time. We don't even look people in the eye anymore. We're just kind of doing our own little thing. And then when it comes to marriage, it's all about me and my needs aren't being met, so I'm out of here. That kind of mentality. So the virtues of honesty and integrity and kindness and thoughtfulness and being willing to apologize and forgive and those kind of things are critically important to a really successful long-term marriage.
And that's the goal. But if it doesn't work out, you also do the divorce coaching too, correct? And before the marriage coaching, which you say is very important.
Yeah. Yeah. So, for example, if people are thinking about getting married, it's a good idea to meet with a person like myself that is familiar with the research and can kind of give you a premarital program on steroids, really help you to look at everything before you get married. That's a very smart thing to do. But, it's just being aware that this is a big step you're taking. And there are people that have been very happily married for a lifetime. And I know that for a fact. I know these people and I know myself. I've really enjoyed being married for 56 years. And I think it's something that you can have, but you don't just go out and get it for free. You got to have some discipline. You have to be willing to listen to other people and understand how they feel, how they see things, respect each other, and have fun together. A happy marriage involves a lot of humor as well, a lot of laughing, a lot of kidding around, a lot of flirting kind of stuff. You're just goofing around with each other. 50s and 60s, you're doing that. Why not? You know? And beyond.
And
I'm almost 80, so
oh my God. No, you're not. Are you joking? You just got
this year.
married young.
Yeah, I'm gonna be 80 in January. Yeah.
Oh, this is breaking news. We should have done a show on this. People that don't look their age. Are you kidding me?
Well,
Jim,
I've taken care I've been
that must,
taking care
when you
of
say
my
married
wife.
so long, I'm like, he must have got married very young, like very young. And now I'm doing the math and I'm like, there's no way. But you're like, oh my gosh, I am almost 80. And you really are not telling the truth. This is not a lie. Wow, Jim.
We got
So
married when I was
secret
23.
to successful marriage, it's like a fountain of youth.
Well, you know what? Being a happily married person does help you be healthier. In fact, there's all kinds of research on that. Married people live longer.
Oh my God, that's a good topic. I want to know more about that next time. Can we? Can we?
Sure.
Oh, wow. That'd be great. No, seriously. We still got 2 minutes left in the show, Jim. So what else did you want to share before we go?
Well, I think that a lot of times we get into situations, especially in our culture, where our partner gets sick or we get sick, where we really are having physical difficulties. And a lot of them are emotional related, are emotion related. And so to be able to help each other with this is sometimes tricky because often a partner doesn't want medical help.
Mm-hmm.
And partners just go, oh, we don't go to doctors, And so that's, again, a subject that you have to really work on together. I'm
Yeah.
not just getting help for myself. I need to take care of my health for my wife and my family too, and vice versa. So this character says, well, I don't need it. Well, just a minute. You're not single. We've got people here depending on you. And if you have a stroke or a heart attack, we all have to live with that. We all suffer from it. And so being considered in these areas when it comes to medication or exercise or the kinds of things that people do to keep good health, it's not just for me, it's for my children.
Yeah.
It's for my spouse. It's for my grandkids,
Well, thank you, Jim. Always a pleasure having you. How do we reach you?
Well, give me a call if you like. My phone number is 406-370-3515. And I'll either pick up or you can leave a message and we can talk and see what I can do to help.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Pleasure having you back as always. And we'll talk again next time. Thank you, Jim.
Take care.
When is your birthday?
January 23.
Oh my gosh, I'm January 10th. Oh my goodness. So I'm going to know you when you turn 80, I hope. Oh my goodness. God bless you. I want to know some statistics and facts about this aging better and for what it does to longevity with your life.
Okay.
In a loving marriage. This is great stuff. But whatever else you want to talk about next time, I'm not here to dictate your show, but I could also give but
Thank you.
Thank you,
Take
Jim.
care.
Always a pleasure having
Bye-bye.
you. We'll talk next week.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house.
And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned. This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes. and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.